Hi, we're at Fort Mountain State Park today. We're on the top of Fort Mountain itself. This area is just covered with literally hundreds of miles of hiking and biking and equestrian trails. But we came up to see the top. We saw the lookout a little bit ago, but we also wanted to see the wall, the ancient Indian wall, the quote-unquote mysterious stone wall. A lot of people attribute it to the Cherokees, but in fact the Cherokees say that it was here before they came. When they got here, it was here. It starts behind us, maybe 100 yards, continues on. It's the archaeologists say it's 930 feet total. And that's just what we know about it right now, what's there now. We don't know if it went further. We definitely have to believe it was taller. We're not sure if it was built for defense or religious rituals, but the top of this mountain is, that side of the mountain is sheer cliff, whereas this side is more sloping. So the wall extends from one side of the sheer cliff all the way around to the other side of the sheer cliff, basically. So we're thinking it was protection. We know now also that there are a half dozen or more of these walls throughout this area of Georgia. So the people who predated the Cherokee believed in, I think I'm going with defense, but I mean it could be rituals, whatever. But again, I'm going with defense. It just makes more sense to me that it would be defensive and not as much ritualistic. This is the most impressive, if you will, of all these walls that exist. This is the largest, the longest, the highest. In some places it's supposed to be 10 feet tall. I'm assuming that in the places where it isn't 10 feet tall, it just got knocked down or somebody used the stones for something else or whatever. People have lived here. Well, the archaeologists date this back to 400 or 500 A.D. So once these people vacated and the Cherokee came in, who knows what the Cherokee might have just used some of these stones. But this is called a, what do they call it? Dry stone masonry, which means there was no mortar in between. They just threw these blocks on top of one another until the blocks created a great big wall, a pile, running in a linear line that was high enough to allow for self-defense or rituals. Again, I'm going with defense. There's several breaks in this wall that indicate that it would have been an area to enter, and that is probably the way it was 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, whatever it was. Excuse me, it was probably that way then. They had to get away, they had to get in and out of here no matter what they did on top of this mountain or around this mountain. Of course, none of these trees would have been here. It would have been a completely windswept, bald area. So we're going to continue down and check out the rest of it. So this is, there's a break in the wall there, small one. We came through a break in the wall over here. And again, we have to believe that the height of these stones was much taller back in those days. And it's just not perfect enough to be concentric to be tied to the moon or the sun. Do you want one of your... Just walk along this little trail here and try to get an idea of how extensive this is. See, down here, this would be well over 10 feet. There's probably about 5 feet stack of rocks up there, maybe less. But again, I think it would have been much higher back when it was originally used. And who knows if they didn't build this for defenses against animals as much as anything else. I mean, I'm sure there would have been wolves and bears roaming these woods much more abundantly than they are now. Watch that step down there. I mean, wolves are pretty much extinct in this area, and bears from here and there. Back in the day, they would have been running around like crazy. And I guess, yeah, panthers would have been here too. This would have been part of panther country back in the day. Cougars would have been in this area. This is pretty cool. This is pretty bloody amazing. So there's some of these over in Track Rock Gap, which we've been to, but we haven't seen the actual walls yet. We're going to go see that this week sometime. And Mount Yonah apparently has some. And I haven't been up there, but the lovely research assistant has been there, and I don't think she's seen any of those. Formations there, but they're not as extensive as they are here. This is an actual attraction here. You don't really have to look for it. It's right there. And you can see some of these bushes are obscuring things. But it continues, you can see through the bushes pretty clearly that it continues to go. On around the edge of the mountain. Here we go, here we pick it back up again pretty clearly. I mean, certainly this is an exceptional feat of engineering, but it's just mostly labor intensive. It wasn't like building the pyramids or anything. There's a very nice shot of a clearly defined wall running across. It's not much different than the Miccosukee down in the Everglades, building their islands with their shell refuse. Oops. Gotta watch the ankles. I wonder if we can walk along the top of that. So this is an incredible place with an incredible view. I didn't video the view because of how, yeah, we can walk up there, good. How extensive, or I'm sorry, how excessive the wind is. It's just unhearable out there. You couldn't, inaudible, I should say. You can't hear anything but the wind. Here's this blue trail that we came up on, so that's part of that. What's that big old rock up there? Let's check that bad boy out. It's a pretty neat looking big old rock. I guess that's all it is, but it's still pretty cool. Yep, it's just a big old rock. Pretty neat though. I love how these rocks up here in this part of the world, they have the striations kind of split. This looks like at one point it had a tree growing out of it, through it, around it, whatever. There's clearly a big old split in it. So this would have been the anchor end of their defensive system. As you can see down there, it's almost straight up and down. It would be nearly impossible for a large group of people to climb up there. Certainly not silently. So, on the top of Fort Mountain, we're gonna put this to rest and photograph some more and explore a little more.